Good afternoon, and thank you everyone for coming back. Hopefully, you're coming back, or if you're new, for joining us this week for the Agricultural Law and Policy webinar series hosted by the Agricultural Law Institute for Underrepresented and Underserved Communities at Southern University. Was created through a partnership with the National Ag Law Center and Southern University Law Center. So we want to say thank you to our partners for making this institution happen. At the Ag Law Institute, we are dedicated to promoting equity and social justice in the agricultural system by providing accessible legal education and representation to empower farmers and agricultural communities facing systemic challenges. Our mission is to cultivate legal literacy, protect farmers' rights, and ensure the prosperity and security of underrepresented and underserved communities. Today, we are joined by LyTanya Brown. I'm excited to have LyTanya with us today. LyTanya and I actually we're both graduates of the Southern University Law Center. We were there at the same time. Unfortunately, we didn't know each other then. I was in the day program, she was in the night program, but our paths collided when we both were working with the Federation of Southern Cooperatives Land Assistance Fund. Well, LyTanya is still the director of mediation, and I'm happy to say that she is now an adjunct professor at Southern University Law Center, teaching a mediation course, but she has been working with the mediation classes at Southern University Law Center for a very long time with our now interim chancellor, Mr. Alvin Washington. She is over the agricultural mediation programs for several states, including Louisiana, Mississippi. Chime in, let me know who I'm forgetting. Florida?
Virgin Islands,
Yes.
and Georgia.
All right, the Virgin Islands and Georgia. She has done hundreds of mediation cases, and so she is a well-known expert in the field of mediation and conflict resolution. And so I'm just so excited to have her here today to share her knowledge and expertise. And with that, I am going to pass it over to you. So thank you again for your time, for joining us and sharing your knowledge and expertise. And I'm looking forward to the presentation. I'll add that she also trained me, so I went through her mediation course, but I'm sure there'll be things that I'm going to relearn, hear maybe for the first time myself today. So thank you again for joining.
Thank you, Ebony, for that wonderful welcome. At one point, I had to say, "You talking about me?" Um,
Yes.
that was a wonderful welcome. Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. I hope you all enjoy this presentation. I do have some slides, PowerPoint presentation, but I do like to ad lib a lot. So I'm not want to just go through PowerPoint after PowerPoint. I'm just gonna just kind of talk about these things now. If you have any questions, excuse me, and I'm gonna ask you, Ebony, would you prefer that they ask their questions at the end, or I have no problem if there's a question in between that they want to stop me and ask that question.
Okay. Usually we wait until the end, but if you don't have a problem taking questions as we go, I'll keep my eye on the chat box, and as any questions arise, I'll go ahead and pop in.
Okay. All right, great. So, all right, I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
So first of all, again, so my name is LyTanya Brown, and I'm the land retention attorney for the Federation of Southern Cooperatives. And part of my role, I work with the Certified Agriculture Mediation Programs. So to kind of give you a background of the mediation programs, so the Agriculture Mediation Program, it was initially authorized by the Ag Credit Act of 1987. Okay, and it was to facilitate the use of mediation to settle disputes arising in conjunction with United States Department of Agriculture action. Now, to give you a background on that, prior to that, so if you receive an adverse decision letter from USDA, it could be rural development, if you are about to be foreclosed on your loan, if you have, if you're one of the FSA and one of the farm programs, it could be the EQIP program or the CRP program. If there's an issue with crops during your disaster, they've always had a system in place where you can either ask for reconsideration, you can ask for mediation, or you can ask for an appeal. Well, if you ask for mediation, then USDA is going to refer you to their state certified mediation program. Prior to the mediation program, if you chose mediation, you would have to pay for it, which could run from $100 to $400 an hour. Many people were not using that program because that was just, it was too much to not be assured that you would get a positive result out of it. So again, USDA decided to start this program where each state had to get permission from the governor and to request funding and everything and get this program going. I actually learned about this program at Southern University Law Center because I participated in their mediation clinic. Okay, so now with the agriculture mediation program, the agriculture mediation program is actually in about 45 states. The Federation of Southern Cooperatives, we actually cover 4 states, including 1 territory. So we covered the Mississippi Agriculture Mediation Program, we call MAP. That one was certified in 2009. We have the Georgia Agriculture Mediation Program, GAMP, which was certified in 2017. In 2020, we acquired the Louisiana Agriculture Mediation Program. Now, and in 2022, we acquired Florida and the Virgin Islands Agriculture Mediation Program. Little known fact, prior to us acquiring the mediation program, Southern University Law Center actually did the Louisiana Agriculture Program. That's how I learned about this. The goal of the program. So the goal of the program is to offer an opportunity for parties to discuss the issues and possibly come to a resolution, free of cost. Notice those last 3 words, free of cost. Since its inception, the program has assisted in saving dozens of homes, thousands of acres of land, which has totaled millions of dollars. And we're actually now in the billions. Okay. So the agencies that we cover, one, we cover Farm Service Agency. Some of y'all know it as FSA. Farm Service Agency normally does like farm programs, they do farm loans and everything. You have the rural development. Rural development is mainly housing. Rural development, you can get a loan through rural development to purchase your home if you live in a rural area. We have natural resources conservation services, cover those. Risk management, forestry. This program also covers private agricultural lending agencies. Another thing, basically, if you have, it does not have to be a USDA agency that you have an issue with. Anything that that involves agriculture can come through this program. So, okay, let's talk about what can be mediated. You can mediate agricultural loans, whether made by USDA, commercial lenders, and disputes involving USDA actions on farm and conservation programs, wetland determinations, rural water loan programs, grazing on natural forest system lands, pesticides, rural housing and business loans, and crop insurance. the 2018 Farm Bill, they also started to include heirs property issues and farm transition. So I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about these two. With disputes involving USDA, it does not have to be a USDA issue. You can have an issue with, um, if you're a farmer, you're cattle, you raise cattle, you may have an issue with your vet bill with your cattle. And if you want to dispute your vet bill with your cattle, that is something that can also come under this program. Okay. You may have boundary issues with your neighbors. You know, they may have put their fence too far on your boundary line. That can happen. Heirs property issues. A lot of people don't understand about heirs property issues. Heirs property is basically where someone passes and does not have a will and leave their property. If they pass without a will, their property is distributed amongst their heirs, and the government decides who that is. Generally, when you're going to have heirs property, you're going to have conflict. So we can go in and help the heirs develop, come to a common ground when it comes to their heirs property issues. We can also do farm transition. That's when you're trying to transition your farm. So if you're trying to create an estate plan, an estate plan, the mediation program can assist you. Okay, let me go to the next one. In a second, I'm trying to put something in here. Okay, so we talked about the agency. And what can be mediated. Ms. Woodruff. Okay. So who can use this program? You have farmers, neighbors, municipalities, and right to farm disputes. Individuals and USDA agencies with program disputes, lenders, creditors, and ag credit disputes, families with heirs property disputes. Again, I spoke about if you have heirs property, a lot of times your families are not going to be on the same accord. And generally, it's not about the land itself. There's some underlying issues that you have to get to. And generally, these heirs property disputes, you're going to have maybe 100, 200, 300 acres of land. Lenders and creditors will add credit disputes. Again, lenders and credit, it can be a creditor. You don't have to necessarily get your loans through USDA. You may have a private lender that has given you money, that has loaned you money for agriculture issues. Those issues can fall under the program also. You may have neighbors, again, where you have a boundary dispute. You may have a neighbor that feels like you are putting money, not money, you are putting, your cows are interfering with their use and enjoyment of their land. That's an ag dispute. So this program can qualify. You will qualify for this program. So let's talk about how to request mediation. So to request mediation for USDA issue, the requesting party must inform USDA of their desire for mediation and contact the Federation within 30 days of the adverse decision. Someone will contact the requesting party to start the mediation process. Generally, that would be me. Again, I cover Louisiana, Georgia, Mississippi, Florida, and the Virgin Islands. So we will contact you if you send a request in to myself or to in the adverse decision letter with USDA. Our information is going to be inputted in there. When you contact them, they will contact us. You will contact us, and I will be contacting you to schedule this mediation. Now, mediations will be conducted in person, via Zoom, or via teleconference. Normally, rural development cases, because they are in St. Louis and everyone in St. Louis covers the entire country, they're going to be via teleconference. Now, with that, I'm going to go through and finish this, but I'm going to speak a little bit more on the mediation process. So, to contact for mediation, it's going to be the Federation of Southern Cooperatives, which is 2769 Church Street, East Point, Georgia. Zip code is 30344. Phone number 404-765-0991. We have our website up here, federation.coop, as well as my contact on it. Now, with that, I know this is kind of short, but I wanted to go and see if anyone has any questions.
No questions from the audience yet, or our attendees, but I have a point of clarification that I'd like to make. So you mentioned that there are ag mediation programs in about 45 states. And so if someone has an issue in a state that's not covered by the Federation, how would they know who they need to reach out to in order to schedule a mediation?
If they are not covered by the Federation, who would they know to reach out to? Tell you what, I'm going to stop
Yes.
my screen. I'm going to stop my
Okay.
screen and I'm going to do another share. And I want to show you all the states that actually has it. Um, very few states don't have it. If the state does not have it, they will have to probably find a local mediator.
So you're saying in states that don't have a program, they would have to find a local mediator. So that would be only about 5 states or so.
Yes. So I'm getting ready to share my screen. And I'm going to show you all the states that have this program. So you have Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, California, Colorado, and Connecticut. You have Florida, Georgia, which was us. You have Hawaii. You have Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, which is also us, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota. You have Oregon, Oklahoma, Ohio, Oklahoma, and Oregon. You have Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and South Dakota. You have Texas, Utah, and Vermont, Virginia, Washington, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. I think one of the few states that don't have it was going to be South Carolina, Tennessee, and I think a few others.
So I put it in the chat for everyone in case you don't see up there, but it's agriculturemediation.org. And I've dropped that in the chat for everyone.
And I want to go a little bit further in saying, so with a lot of times people don't understand the value of the agriculture mediation program because they think, if I'm behind on my mortgage, if I am $10,000 behind, why would I go through mediation when it may not work in my favor? You can always appeal. Thing about mediation, if you appeal, you you relinquish your right for mediation. You go through mediation, you really don't lose anything but time. That out, it's not costing you anything. And I've been doing this for 15 years, and very rarely have I had a mediation with rural development did not work in that person's favor. Generally, it doesn't work in their favor. The few that I have had was because they waited absolutely too late to even ask for mediation. So nothing was able to be done at that point. They're generally, USDA is generally going to try to work something out with you. Now, the thing with USDA mediations, they have to, because this is funded by FSA, USDA has to agree to participate. And another party, if it's not USDA, the thing about the program, we cannot compel them to participate. So if you have an issue, if you have a boundary issue with your neighbor, which it can be that does fall under the program. But if your neighbor does not want to participate in mediation, we can't compel them to. So that can be a challenge. But with the program, it has saved many homes, thousands, close to millions of acres of land, and close to somewhere in the billions when it comes to dollar value.
Well, that's amazing. So for someone who has joined us today, they've never participated in a mediation, could you walk us through the steps, let them know what they could expect if they were to engage in a mediation?
Okay, so generally, once the requesting party, once we receive a request for mediation, I contact both parties. I generally contact the requesting party first, and then I would contact USDA to find out who in their agency will be representing them in the mediation. At that
And let me
point,
hop in for a quick moment and ask you a question before you get too far. So as the mediator, are you representing the person who initiated the mediation process, or, what's your role as a mediator?
okay, let me go through that. So as a mediator is different. Mediation is just one form of conflict resolution. Okay, you have arbitration, you have litigation, you have mediation. Mediator is a neutral third party. So I don't represent either party in the mediation. I'm really just there to facilitate the process.
Okay, good. So you're a neutral party, but someone contacts you, they want to engage in mediation. So once you get the notice, you follow up with the person who requested the mediation, and then you also reach out to the other party. And then what happens after that?
Okay, so once I reach out to both parties, I try to get some available dates and times from each party. to see when we can conduct the mediation. Before COVID, mediation was generally done face to face. Because of COVID, a lot of stuff went virtual. So many mediations now are done virtual. Again, before then, rural development cases are always done via telecom. So what I do, I contact both parties and I will ask them when, try to coordinate dates with both of them, because one of the things that I don't want to do, I'm not like with the appeals process where they're going to just send you a date and time and say, this is when your mediation is going to be done. I mean, this is when your appeal is going to happen. I try to coordinate with both parties to make it convenient. Once we do that, then I kind of explain to them what mediation is, what the process is, um, and I send them what's called an agreement to mediate and a scheduling memo, which is going to outline everything that's going to be done in the mediation. Mediations are always confidential, even though we're on Zoom. It is always confidential. I will be in a room as a mediator where no one else is around, no one else can hear anything. And we ask the parties to also be in a place where no one is around, no one can hear, because this is confidential information. I take notes during the mediation, but my notes will be destroyed after the mediation. And I inform the parties of that. I will take notes, but they are destroyed. As a mediator, I cannot be compelled to come to court. I cannot be subpoenaed to come to court, nor can my notes be subpoenaed to come to court and testify as to anything that was discussed during that mediation. It's strictly confidential. So in-person mediation, once we come in, we'll sit down. I generally let the requesting party, I give my opening statement. Then I let the requesting party give their opening. And then the other party, they give their opening. I ask all parties not to interrupt, let them give their opening statement, take notes so they can go back and address anything that they didn't agree with. And then if there needs to be a separate caucus, then I separate the parties. We'll go to a different room. I'll ask one party to leave out and we stay in the room, or me and the other party will leave out and have a separate caucus. On Zoom, it's exact same way. If we have to do a separate caucus, then I will put you in a breakout room. Okay? So I'll put all parties in a breakout room, in different breakout rooms, and I'll go to the breakout room with the one that I need to speak to first, and then the one that I need to speak to second. Again, even in the breakout rooms, everything is confidential. So anything that someone tells me in the breakout room, I will not reveal to the other party unless they tell me that I can reveal that. Once we come back, if we can come to an agreement, then the agreement is going to always be reduced to writing, and it's going to be in simple terms. We don't use a lot of legalese because it can be very confusing for people sometimes. So it is in very simple terms of party A agrees to pay $200 a month on their delinquent balance. Party B, USDA, agrees to allow Party A to pay $200 a month toward their delinquent amount and agrees not to foreclose. It's as simple as that. And I make it's in their own words. It's drafted. Everyone looks over it. Tell me if this is how you like for it to look. Any changes that need to be made, I'll make those changes and give it to everyone. They sign, I sign, and it goes into a file, and the file is closed. Can you hear me, Ms. Woodruff? Ms. Woodruff?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't
I'm
know if I
sorry,
had
I
frozen.
apologize. You froze for a second, and so when
Okay.
it came back, I didn't know if you were about to continue or if you had finished your statement, but the last thing I heard was afterwards, each party would sign.
Yes. Each party signs it. And anyone that if you have any type of agriculture issue or you know someone that may have an agriculture issue, I encourage everyone to utilize that mediation program because the mediation program is designed to help you try to figure it out prior to going to court. Because when you go to court, you have filing fees. You're going to have an attorney, you know, and mediation, it costs you nothing. It's zero cost. And there's a great potential that you can work it out in mediation.
That you arrive at during a mediation process, are they binding on the parties? Do the parties have to adhere to it? Have you ever been in a situation where parties have agreed to something in a mediation and then afterwards they didn't follow through?
Um, yes, yes, because again, most of our mediations are, and this is kind of a two-part question. So most of our mediations are with USDA.
Okay.
So if they agree to pay a certain amount every month to keep their home from going into foreclosure, yes, it is binding. If they do not adhere to that, then USDA can move forward with the processes, with the process of accelerating that loan. Okay. Now, it's different when it comes to heirs property.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have an heirs property issue, and say you have two siblings. One agrees in mediation, said, I don't want my interest in the land. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll sell you. We'll do an interfamily buyout. I'll sell you my interest in my land. A week later, they haven't done a quit claim deed. They haven't put it in writing or anything. A week later, she may come back and say, "Nah, I think I want to keep my portion." Okay, I can't as a media say, "Nope, you agreed to say you were gonna sell it to us, so you have to sell it." As a mediator, I cannot do that. I have not run into that situation, but that is something they will have to deal with in court.
Okay, so then that will be and so then the next step will be to elevate it to actual litigation and file a lawsuit.
Mhm. And generally, in my experience, when it came to family mediations, I think all of them kind of understand. They're just trying to figure things out. And if one person is saying, okay, I'll go ahead and sell my portion to somebody. Um, but then if she decides to keep it, no, I don't want to sell. I think I want to keep it a part of the family land. They're not going to challenge it.
Okay. Well, we're still taking questions, but if there are none, then I have a few that I would like to ask. Are all mediators attorneys or have some type of legal background?
No. So it varies from state to state. So in the state of Mississippi, if okay, let me back up. If you have a training, in most states, the training is like a 40-hour basic training in mediation. You can actually start a mediation firm. Okay, go out and hold yourself out there as a mediator, and you can conduct mediation. In order to be on the state registry, each state is different. You have to follow their guidelines. where the court will actually send you mediation. So I'm gonna give you two examples. For example, in Mississippi, if I remember correctly, Mississippi, to be on their court registry, they want you to be a practicing attorney in Mississippi. And you have other requirements too, but that's one of the basics. In Florida, Florida is really the mediation. ADR regulates mediation very specifically.
Before you move on, what's ADR?
Alternative dispute resolution.
Okay.
So they have a lot of regulations. So in Florida, even to, from my understanding, even to hold yourself out there as a mediator, you have a 40-hour training in mediation. You still have to go through, I think it's a 40-hour training with circuit court to be on their registry. I think it's a 24-hour with court, with county court, and I think it's 1 day with appellate court, and it's a 3-day with family court. So in Florida, it's not as easy. But some states, all you have to do, if you have a 40-hour certification, then you are able to go in that state and have your own practice as a mediator. And one of the things that I do at Southern, I actually also certified. I don't want to say I certified them, but the students that go through my course, I used to do I do a weekend course, and those students who are in mediation and do this weekend course, they will leave that course with a certificate saying that they completed 40 hours of basic mediation training.
Okay. So it seems like in some states, mediators have to be practicing attorneys, in other states they don't. Are mediators allowed to give any type of advice or legal advice during the mediation process? Because again, they're supposed to be neutral parties, but can they give advice? Can you ask your mediator, well, what do you think about this? Or do you think this is fair? Should I accept this? Is the mediator allowed to give advice?
I've had that question come to me before, and the answer is no. Because when you do that, a mediator is a neutral third party. If you give them advice, then it can be seen as you're advocating for them. You're no longer neutral if you're telling them what to do. So you cannot give advice at all. I will share a few experiences that I've had with USDA, where the farmer was really the farmer was in a real bad situation. Okay. And they needed an attorney. They did. They needed to fight their case because they were being done wrong. So that attorney, the farmer needed an attorney. And as bad as I wanted to say, you need to get an attorney, I kept quiet. Luckily, it was the USDA representative that said, I think you need to get an attorney, and I think you need to take this to court.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have to do it. Okay. So you have to be very tricky. You have to be very careful with that because it can be a tricky situation because the slightest thing that you say, they take it as you're representing them. Also, some of them, because this is done through FSA, a lot of people go into it thinking that I work for USDA. And I have to explain to them, I don't work for USDA. I'm a neutral third party. So you have to be very careful. In some family mediations, when someone comes to me and wants a family mediation, have asked me, can you call my other siblings and tell them, that I want mediation? I tell them no, I can't do that. You have to contact them because although I'm not representing her, if I make a phone call to your siblings and I say, I'm Attorney Brown, I'm calling because your sister wants to do mediation with it, they're automatically going to think I'm her attorney.
Mm.
So they're not going to look at me as a neutral party.
Okay. And then generally, how long does mediation last? Is it a process that lasts several days? Is it a few hours? What is a typical mediation, process like in terms of time?
It varies. It varies with mediations. A USDA mediation may last um, an hour. I've had one last as soon as 30 minutes. But they can go up to maybe 2 hours. We tell everyone to allot for 3 to 4 hours just in case. But it generally lasts maybe an hour to 2 hours. A family mediation can be different. I've done family mediations where I've had 7 sessions with them. Okay, they would have me on their family meetings every month, and I would do a session with them 7 times. So it depends on the thing about mediation. One, you have to go in with good faith, and you have to go in with an open mind. As long as you do that, then that means you're open to negotiation, and it doesn't take that long. But if you go in with a closed mind, not really wanting to work anything out, it could last. I mean, I don't know how many times, how many hours. One thing about me as a mediator, if we're 2 hours in or 3 hours in, if it obviously seems like one party is not going to budge, at that point, okay, I think we've come to an impasse.
Mm.
Unless you all think that you can agree on something, at right now we're at an impasse. And the reason why I do that is because although our services are free, I like to tell others, if you see at a certain point it's at an impasse, end it right there. Because at that point, if you're charging them by the hour, at that point you're kind of wasting everyone's time and just billing them for hours that are not necessary, which really goes against the ethical rules for mediators.
Okay, so based upon that, have two follow-up questions. So the first question is advice or things that one should look for when selecting a mediator. Because, like an attorney, I have to explain to people all the time that they should vet their attorneys, just because someone is licensed to practice. For instance, I'm an agricultural attorney, and so people know that I'm an attorney, but sometimes they come to me and they have questions about criminal law or personal injury, it runs the gambit because people just know that I'm an attorney. And so then I have to explain to them in the best way I have found is, like a doctor, like you wouldn't ask your optometrist, your eye doctor, something about your heart. You would want a cardiologist, and so are there any things that one should look for, traits or qualities in a mediator?
Yeah, I would say ask the mediator what style of mediation they use. You have the facilitative style, you have the evaluative style, and you have the transformative style. facilitator style, basically, they're just, and we're all there to facilitate the process, just letting everyone talk. Evaluative style, they're gonna help you look at. I like to say those as maybe like a maybe a contract dispute.
Mhm.
You want to evaluate, the strengths and weaknesses of each side and make them see that. Okay, evaluate them to help them come to some type of resolution. The transformative style, mainly you use in, I would say, domestic cases. Transformative, you want to try to get them to transform themselves into the other person's point of view. Okay, so you want to transform them, kind of make them see what the other person what the other person is saying, trying to get them to be sensitive to what the other person, and maybe when you can do that and get them to understand it from the other person's perspective, you're generally able to come to results easier. So I would, to answer your question, picking a mediator, I would probably ask, what style do you use?
Okay. And then you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier when you were answering one of the other questions about, going into a mediation with an open mind and, really being ready to come to a resolution. Are there any other tips that you would give someone who is maybe in a mediation process or thinking about initiating one on how to best prepare for the process?
How to best prepare for mediation?
Yes.
Yes. One, again, you want to go into it with an open mind. Two, you want to, when you choose your mediator, you want to see what mediation style that they use. Three, have all of your facts together, all your paperwork, everything that you need. Okay, you want to have all your paperwork. Um, Come in, have a notepad, have a pen and a piece of paper. Again, I can't stress enough about having an open mind. I want you, when you go in, you have to be calm. You can't go in with any type of anger or anything. Be calm, because then you're gonna overtalk and things. Have a piece of paper where they're talking, you write down your notes as to what you want to say. Those are my best ways to tell you to prepare for it.
Okay. And then I think this may be my final question that I have, although just reminding all our attendees that we are open to questions from you all. Some attendees may be students who are interested in ag mediation, or maybe just another interested party that tuned in and joined us today. If someone is interested in mediation as a career path, I know you talked about the programs, and I know that you teach and certify people, or you provide a program where they receive a certificate at the end. But if someone to do that, how would they find a program to enroll in? Is the program at Southern only for law students at Southern University Law Center, or is it open to the general public? I know that's a lot of questions wrapped into one, but if you could answer some of the whatever part of that you remember.
Yeah. Okay. So the program at Southern is really only open to the students that are enrolled in the mediation clinic. Okay.
Okay.
Again, depending on what state you're in, you want to look at their state laws. And what I would do, and I'll do this and try to put it in the chat. let's see. Okay, I'm gonna try to search this right now, but you can Google how to become a certified mediator in your state, and there is a website that does that, and it would tell you state by state what the requirements are. And I was trying to pull that up. So, because in some states, if I remember correctly, like in Mississippi, I think to become certified, it was on like 16 hours, something like that. Um, in other states, it may be more. In Louisiana, it's 40 hours. In Florida, it's 40 hours. So, what they would need to do, I would look up the certification qualifications in the state that you plan on living in and see and just follow those guidelines.
Okay. Well, with that, I think that's all, folks. So I'm going to wrap this up, starting by one, thanking my guest, Miss LyTanya Brown. Thank you so much for joining us today, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here, to share your knowledge and expertise with our attendees. Thank you to all of our attendees. There are many things that you could be doing on a Thursday from noon to 1 o'clock, but you chose to show up here, and we appreciate your support. I hope that the information you received from our guests today has been informative for you. And so thank you again for attending. Thank you again to our partner, the National Agricultural Law Center, for partnering with Southern University Law Center to create the Agricultural Law Institute for underrepresented and underserved communities. With that, I want to let y'all know that we do have another webinar coming up on, we do these weekly, but I think, yes, so next week we won't be here, but join us on October 17th, where we'll be joined by Emma Scott, and she'll be talking about migrant agricultural workers and highlighting their challenges and contributions in the agriculture sector. And that's part of our series where we want to highlight National Hispanic Heritage Month. And so a lot of the migrant workers that we have here in the United States tend to come from Latin America. And so we really want to learn more about their contributions to the agricultural sector and learn about the challenges that they face so that we can be allies in solidarity with them. And so with that, again, thank you everyone for joining us today. I don't think I introduced myself at the beginning, but my name is Ebony Woodruff. I'm an agricultural attorney, and I'm also the director of the Agricultural Law Institute for Underrepresented. About the Institute, you can find it at www.sulc.edu/ALI for Agricultural Law Institute. You can email me, Ebony, EBONY, Woodruff, WOODRUFF, at sulc.edu. You can also email the Institute at Ali, ALI, at sulc.edu. So again, thank you everyone, our special guests, our attendees, again, everyone for joining us today. We appreciate the support and I hope to see you again. Please share the information. And one final plug, if you have Instagram, if you're a social media person, you can follow us on Instagram at SULC_ALI for Agricultural Law Institute, where I post all of the upcoming webinars, but then other information that I think may be of interest to our community. So with that, thank you all for joining us today. Hope to see you again. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.